When you hear the word genius, what's the first thing that pops in your head? Probably someone in a lab coat, solving impossible equations on a chalkboard, always having the perfect answer. But what if I told you that the real psychology of a high IQ is a whole lot quieter, way more subtle, and honestly, so much more interesting? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that.
So, let's just ask the question head on. What does a highly intelligent person actually look like in their day-to-day life? Because it turns out the image we've all got in our heads, thanks to movies and TV, is pretty much completely wrong.
Okay, let's break this down. On one side, you have the stereotype we all know, the show-off, the person who thinks out loud, the one who always has to be the smartest person in the room. But the psychological reality, well, that's a totally different story. It's someone who listens way more than they talk, who does their heavy thinking internally, and who has the genuine humility to say, you know what, I don't know. And these aren't signs of weakness. Oh no, they're actually the hallmarks of a really truly analytical mind.
And this quote right here, this just gets to the absolute heart of it. Intelligence isn't about having a head full of facts. It's not a memory game. It's all about how your brain engages with and processes the world around you. It's a verb, not a noun.
So, to really understand that process, let's start by looking at the habits of the inner mind. This is where all the real work gets done, deep behind the scenes, totally hidden from the outside world. All right, first up, we've got a habit that people get wrong all the time, spending a lot of time alone. This isn't really about being antisocial or shy. It's about creating the perfect mental workshop for some seriously deep thinking.
So what's the why behind this? Well, that quiet time, that solitude, it gives the prefrontal cortex, which is basically the brain's command center, the room it needs to breathe and untangle really complex ideas. In fact, some fascinating research shows that highly intelligent people often report feeling less satisfied from constant social events. It's not that they dislike people, it's that their brains are wired to crave that quiet time to just think.
Okay. Here's another one that might look a little strange from the outside. You'll often find highly intelligent people talking to themselves. But just like before, there's a really solid cognitive reason for it.
Yeah, it's not just some random muttering. It actually has a name: self-directed speech. And psychologists have found it's an incredibly powerful tool. By narrating your thoughts out loud, you can organize your ideas, seriously sharpen your focus, and even give your working memory a boost. It's a sign of a brain that's actively managing its own workload. Pretty cool, right?
And let's quickly touch on a couple more inner habits. What we might call overthinking. A lot of the time, that's actually the brain running multiple mental simulations at once to find the best path forward. And the whole night owl thing? Well, that can be a sign of high cognitive flexibility. Basically, the ability for your brain to thrive in patterns that are a little outside the 9-to-5 norm.
Okay, so now that we've had a peek inside the mind, let's talk about how all that internal processing changes the way highly intelligent people actually see and interact with the world. This one is absolutely crucial. Instead of being the first to jump into a conversation, they often hang back. They're that person in the meeting who's quiet for the first 45 minutes, but when they finally do speak, what they say just changes the entire conversation. So what's actually happening during that silence? It's an incredibly active process. They're not just sitting there. They're watching the social dynamics, they're gathering information, analyzing subtle emotional cues, and only then, after all that data is collected, do they formulate a really thoughtful response. It's all about data collection before you get to the output.
And this might be the most powerful and misunderstood habit of them all. Real, deep intelligence isn't about having an answer for everything. It's about knowing the exact borders of your own knowledge.
And this is perfectly explained by something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. You've probably seen this in action, right? It's that cognitive bias where people with very little knowledge on a topic tend to be wildly overconfident, while highly intelligent individuals often do the exact opposite. They are so keenly aware of how complex a subject is that they're more likely to underestimate their own expertise and are quick to admit what they still need to learn.
So let's just pause here for a second and think about this. How often do we get this wrong? We see someone who's quiet and we assume they're insecure. Or we see someone who spends a lot of time alone and we label them antisocial. What we're learning is that these behaviors could actually be signs of a much deeper, more analytical mind just doing its work.
This brings us to our final section, and it's all about mental flexibility. Because if there is one single defining feature of high intelligence, it's the ability to adapt your thinking, not dig in your heels.
You know, in our culture, changing your mind is so often seen as a weakness, right? Like you're being wishy-washy or you don't have conviction. But in cognitive psychology, it is the exact opposite. This is all about a crucial concept called cognitive flexibility. See, highly intelligent people don't tie their identity to their opinions. Their beliefs aren't who they are. Instead, they see their beliefs as mental models of the world. And those models are meant to be updated when new, better evidence comes along. This skill is absolutely essential for any kind of advanced problem solving.
All right, now for a fun one. A strong and often pretty dark or complex sense of humor. Turns out this isn't just a personality quirk. It's actually deeply connected to how your brain processes information.
I mean, think about what your brain has to do to get a good joke. It has to recognize complex patterns, instantly spot when an expectation is broken, and then connect two or more ideas that seem totally unrelated. It is a serious mental workout. And yep, studies have shown a clear, measurable link between high IQ scores and the ability to process and appreciate humor. Okay, so we've looked at all these different habits, the solitude, the self-talk, the humility, the flexibility. But what's the one thing, the one driving force behind all of them? Well, the answer is actually beautifully simple. It really just boils down to this: a relentless, unstoppable curiosity and a constant search for meaning. These last two habits aren't really separate things at all. They're two sides of the same coin. They're the engine. Curiosity asks the question why, and the search for meaning is what tries to connect all the answers. And this final quote just brings it all home so perfectly. Forget about test scores, forget about knowing trivia. At its absolute core, intelligence is really just about having a brain that cannot stop exploring patterns, questioning assumptions, and trying to piece together the giant, beautiful puzzle of the world.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought. Forget about whether or not you feel like a genius. That's not the right question. Instead, ask yourself this: what puzzles is your brain chewing on right now? What are you trying to figure out? Because that curiosity, that burning desire to understand, well, that's the truest sign of intelligence there is.